Being a caveman or cavewoman 10,000 years ago would have been a very different experience than it is today. They lived in a time before written history, in small groups or tribes, and were hunters and gatherers. They had to rely on the natural resources of the environment to survive. A typical day for a caveman or cavewoman would have begun early in the morning, as soon as the sun rose. They would have risen from their sleeping place, which was usually a pile of animal skins or furs on the ground, and eaten a quick breakfast of berries, nuts, and maybe some small animals they had caught. After breakfast, the cavemen and cavewomen would set out to hunt and gather food. They would use primitive tools such as spears, bows, and arrows to hunt large animals such as mammoths, bison, and deer. They would also gather fruits, berries, nuts, and other edible plants. This would have been a challenging task, as the environment would have been harsh and unpredictable, with harsh weather and wild animals to contend with. After a day of hunting and gathering, the cavemen and cavewomen would return to their home, which was usually a cave or a simple shelter made of branches and animal skins. They would then prepare their food by cooking it over an open fire. This was an important task as it would help preserve the food and make it safer to eat. The evenings would be spent socializing, telling stories, and making tools and weapons. They would also make clothing and other items such as pottery, baskets, and jewelry. As they were not able to read or write, stories and legends would be passed down orally. Cavemen and cavewomen would also have a spiritual life, and they would have beliefs and practices related to the natural world. They would have had a deep understanding of the natural world and would have revered the animals, plants, and the forces of nature. They would have believed in spirits, gods and goddesses, and would have performed rituals and ceremonies to appease them. It's important to note that the cavemen and cavewomen were not primitive or uneducated. They were highly skilled in their ability to survive in a harsh environment. They had to have a deep understanding of the natural world and how to live in harmony with it. They also had a strong sense of community and would have worked together to survive. Living in a cave or a simple shelter would have been difficult, as they would not have had the luxuries we take for granted today such as electricity, running water, and modern appliances. They would have had to rely on the natural resources of the environment to survive, and this would have been a constant struggle. It's also important to note that the way of life of cavemen and cavewomen varied depending on the region, the time period, and the resources available. There were different cultures, languages, and customs. The way of life of a caveman or cavewoman from 10,000 years ago would have been different in different parts of the world. To conclude, life as a caveman or cavewoman 10,000 years ago would have been challenging and difficult. However, they also had a deep understanding and appreciation of the natural world, a strong sense of community and the ability to survive in a harsh